Well, welcome back to another episode of The Art of Feminine Negotiation. As you hopefully know by now, this is a show where we explore how reclaiming so-called feminine traits like empathy and collaboration and emotional intelligence can transform the way we lead, love, and live. And today I'm really excited to be welcoming two very incredible guests, Rocio Aquino and Angel Orengo. So welcome, Rocio and Angel.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for being here. Hello to everyone. Hi.
Thank you for having us, Cindy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, well, and as you guys can probably tell already, they've got a great energy. Can't wait to hear. They're quite the dynamic duo, and they are co-authors of the newly released book called The Orchid. And we're going to be talking today about the negotiation of self, finding voice in the silence, if you will.
Mm.
And for those of you who may not know them, Rocio is a talented storyteller. He's passionate about exploring the complexities of family, culture, and emotional resilience. And writing is really deeply rooted in themes of identity and legacy and the transformative power of love. And similarly, Angel brings decades of experience in leadership and mentorship and craft stories that illuminate the emotional negotiations that we undertake in our personal lives and beyond, whether we realize it or not. So today we're going to be diving into how this beautiful novel came to life, the collaborative process between them, and the deep emotional negotiations, if you will, that their characters and they themselves have had to navigate along the way. So settle in and get ready for an honest, very heart-opening conversation with Rocio and Angel. Now, the title, I'm wondering, The Orchid, I mean, it's so evocative, right? So what does it symbolize for you, like, well, within the story and for each of you personally?
When we first started looking for the proper title, if you will, the
Yeah.
first one that actually came to mind was The Garden, because the idea is how do you return to that holy place that we've been told, is at the beginning of it all before we screwed it all up, right? But as we researched, we noticed the garden had been used way too many times. So we started looking for something else that was emblematic and symbolic. And at that time, obviously, we knew it was a project about women.
Yeah.
So we started to look for those symbols. And of course, orchids came about. And somehow it's like, whoa, 30,000 different types of
Yeah.
orchids. They grow everywhere in the world under the most strenuous of circumstances. They
Yeah.
just show up and they're beautiful, one more than the other.
Yeah.
And we didn't know this at the time. But as we were selecting it and it became the symbol that we wanted to go with and the name we wanted to go with, fast forward almost a year, and someone said, I found some research that associates orchids with men because some of the roots of some orchids look like testicles. So, in
Okay.
fact, the Greeks were the ones to name them orchis,
Huh.
meaning testicles
Yeah.
in Greek. And so all of a sudden, we end up with this symbol that is both emblematic of the women we wanted to serve,
Yeah.
but also of the men who cannot be far behind, because at the end, it's about the balance between the two.
I love that. That's so powerful. Now,
Yeah.
the characters in the orchid have to navigate or negotiate, as I often say, love and trauma and self-discovery. So, how do they engage in both the internal and external negotiations throughout their journeys? What were you trying to show us with that?
The most incredible negotiation that I ever did in my life was with my ego.
Yes.
And my ego was always telling me that I was not enough because I didn't have the correct grades and I didn't have the correct anything.
Yeah.
So in the novel, all the characters, they need to negotiate between what all the things that keep themselves for being the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
Because everyone has these beliefs
Yeah.
that at one point make them weak.
Yeah.
And in the moment that they begin to understand that, I can begin to see this from another perspective, they begin to gain confidence to really take over your ego, your fear, and all these things that you are carrying with yourself, even though that you don't know
Yeah.
that you are carrying them. So this is the best secret for negotiation.
Yeah.
When you begin to see it, in
Yeah.
that moment, you became unstoppable.
I love your self-awareness around that. And it's funny you say that, Rocio, because one of the models in my Art of Feminine Negotiation is I call it the no fear model. And it talks about that fear, and the E is ego, because we don't pay enough attention. And women in particular have been so conditioned, as you say, to play small. And I believe you mentioned earlier about not having the voice, right? So
Yes.
I wonder in the book, what role does silence or that refusal or ability to speak up play in the negotiations that share your characters' lives?
Great question. Science for us took different meanings, and it is the time in which, we say silence, but really an incredible amount of conversations take place in silence.
Yeah.
And so meditation was an important part of the journey in the book.
Yeah.
It was about silencing all the noise that distracts you from the real conversations that need to take place.
Yeah.
So that was important. The book has many central themes. One of them is all the answers are inside of you,
Yeah.
all of them. And the only thing that you need to do is create the space for that conversation to occur, right? And so I would say it's the predominant factor, or one of the predominant factors in the book. It's really about creating spaces
Yeah.
through exercises, through reflection, so that that conversation can take place inside of you. And going back to Rocio and her ego, I can tell you one of the places where that showed up, that conversation, was journaling,
Yeah.
right? That there is silence in journaling,
Yes.
in the sense that you are all of a sudden enthralled in this process of just letting out. And I remember walking in, Cindy, into her room, into her office,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, what I saw was a battle. And she just like looked at me and gave me the do not dare to come in right now. I'm in the middle of, right, like the end
Yeah.
war.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh
so
my
important to
God.
create spaces like that.
Yeah.
was has been so intense to overcome myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now that we are working together,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, this is so easy now that we are in the same side.
Yeah. Well, and Angel, at least you took the clue. You're going to have to give lessons to my husband, because he definitely doesn't take the clue when he comes in, regardless of what looks I give him. And I want to just put a pin for our listeners in that idea about space, because we are such a to-do, task-driven society, and we're taught that that's the definition of success, when you're go, 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 and productive, productive, productive. And the studies on how little space we afford ourselves. So I challenge all of our listeners here to take Rocio and Angel, take their challenge, take it as a challenge today to determine how much space do you allow yourself. And if you're not, if you can't honestly say that you're giving yourself big chunks of space every day, then challenge yourself to make that space. But I wanted to circle back when when I talk about feminine, it's not necessarily gender-based. We all have that so-called masculine and feminine energy. And one of the things that made me start Art of Feminine Negotiation is I felt that for so long, the so-called feminine traits were being seen as a liability and, an impediment to success. And we tried to tamper them down. So I'd love your views on how do you define, or how do you think that feminine traits like empathy, intuition, that emotional intelligence emerge as sources of strength?
I was very lucky. I grew up with many women around me. So the power of the feminine, if you will, was always present in my life.
Yeah.
In fact, so much so that my father was completely absent from my life. And the extent of my father's presence was about 5 hours at the age of 40. That's how old I was when I met him. And that
Wow.
was the last time I saw him as well.
Yeah.
But his absence is not what I want to focus on here. It's really about the power of the feminine. And I realized throughout my entire career, and I just ended a 23-year career at a major Hollywood studio.
Wow.
And so, and that career was what took us around the world, and we traveled, and I led teams, managed incredible amounts of business for that company. And what I realize is that for far too long, we were separating the parts of us. It's almost, I later learned that it was after World War when all these officers entered the workforce, that it became almost a military culture in
Yeah.
corporate America or corporate world,
Yeah.
in that leave your emotions at the door, right?
Yeah.
You have to be here, you have to work from 9 to 5, you have to be focused. And I think what we did is erode those, as you mentioned, all of these
Yeah.
emotions that are incredibly important.
Yeah.
And when you incorporate them, they actually strengthen every aspect of you.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're just taught in a different way because at some point someone decided the feminine qualities were weaknesses, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And so well, take 10 seconds before replying.
Yeah.
Really, that is creating space for
Yeah.
thought, for emotion to take place, but not sold as such. And so what I found is that in my career, it actually improved.
Yeah.
It gave me success when I incorporated every aspect of those emotions, all of me,
Yeah.
even tears,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's okay to incorporate emotion when someone tells you, I'm having a tough moment.
Yeah.
In fact, before you begin a meeting, and perhaps if it's in a decisive meeting in your company, in your organization, doesn't it behoove you to find out whether people are truly present or they're worried about a sick child, a dying mother, whatever it is, because that's going to impact the decision-making process and the creativity process in that meeting today.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's essential. And I've now come to realize it. And I'll end by saying that I love reading the Bible, even though I'm not an incredibly religious person. I'm very spiritual, but not religious. And I just came to understand very recently the fifth commandment that says, honor thy father and thy mother. And I now understand that it's honor the masculine and the feminine energies inside of you. And when
Oh,
you do, you achieve balance in your life. And then everything unlocks and you really start to experience miracles.
I love that interpretation. I don't know that I've ever heard anybody frame it that way, and that just makes such perfect sense to me. And thank you both for calling out this idea about emotion, because for so long, like studying, in my career as a lawyer, and we see it in business, we see it in politics, and we're taught that emotion has no place at the table. And I mean, to me, it's such a fatal flaw in logic. We are humans, we are emotional beings. And I think, Rocio, it was you who said earlier about how this is our strength, like, right? This is our superpower when we can tap into it. Now, when you mentioned about mother and father, how does the novel reflect negotiations across generations, right? Between the past traumas and maybe our future hopes?
Oof, in so many ways. Has many chapters about to understand for what reason you are the person that you are.
Yeah.
So we have 5 lessons. Number 1 is awareness. For what reason you are the way you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you begin to understand. Then we have a beautiful chart that you can see where is your energy.
Yeah.
Your energy is in sadness of survival, and then how you can, through curiosity and many other, you can go to a very lighter place.
Yeah.
Then that's something that you need to be aware how your body works. Okay, so the next one is gratitude.
Yeah.
And you begin to see what is gratitude and affects your life. The next one is forgiveness.
Yeah.
When you forgive others, but how you forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Really, for believing what happened. And then the other part who is super important is acceptance. Is okay, this happened, but now what I'm gonna do about it. So you begin to have intention.
Yeah.
So in different parts of the novel, we are showing every time how to negotiate with yourself, with your past, in the present moment. And then the best part is when you feel better about yourself, then create whatever you want to bring to the world.
Yeah.
And make it happen.
Yeah.
I want to add one thing. The way the novel is written, is written very much in along the lines of that saying that says life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react.
Yeah.
So really the backstories are incredibly important and we go into them, mom, dad relationships, sibling relationships, experiences, and so on. But we spend the majority of the novel through exercises and tools explaining how they're getting out of their hole.
Yeah.
So that how they find themselves. And it's not that they reach a place in which they're healed. No, they reach a place in which they now understand they have the power to change the way they're living.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's a great setup. As I say, it's a very unique approach because it's a novel and yet it's also very much a self-help, right? If you pay attention and go through it, you get the best of both worlds. And if you guys see me smiling or laughing, I'm definitely not laughing at. I'm just brings me great joy to see how much what you're sharing with the world is in alignment with all of the principles that I adopt. And I'll have to send you a copy of my Art of Feminine Negotiation, and you'll see just how much in alignment we are on so many of these things. And I'm really glad, Rocio, thank you for, I think you'd mentioned curiosity and you sort of lightly dropped it in. And I love it. I want to put a pin for our listeners as well, how important curiosity is. When we show up with curiosity in negotiating our relationships, whether with ourselves, with our kids, with our intimate partner, or big business deals, it changes everything because then you're open to truly listening and receiving and coming up with more creative alternatives than we are when we're trying to impose our view on other people in those discussions, as we so often do. So thank you for raising that. And I'm wondering, especially with the two of you writing, like that's not an easy thing to do. I'm wondering, were there moments in the writing process that maybe challenged your own emotional boundaries or illuminated something about yourself?
Easy was not easy at all. Was like I begin to see when you are out of your comfort zone is when you really thrive.
Yeah.
Because you feel like I'm successful in this moment because I'm not conforming what somebody say.
Yeah.
So imagine a writers who never wrote before to do it together. So
And they're married.
married.
Yeah.
So feels like I was a gymnast in 2 seconds. It's like you gonna jump from right now to do it. But was what I discovered that is my secret with Angel is I respect him so much. And I understand right now that anything that is always we have good intentions.
Yeah.
And when we have this base, is we have an open communication, even when I don't understand myself. Because during this process to do the book, he was more like the healer and the teacher, and I was in the process to healing trauma.
She was the 5 women.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so imagine to go and do this, open yourself to all your secrets, to all the things that you are really going naked,
Yeah.
and to understand that, he doesn't care. And then he continued to love me.
Yeah.
That was the best present that I ever had in life.
She's never said this before, but
I loved it. And Angel, before, I don't know if you wanted to jump in, but I just wanted to say something before it slips my mind, because a couple of things really jumped out at me there, Rocio. And one is you said good intentions at the outset. And I think so often we are taught and conditioned from a very young age to have an armor up, right? When you're going in, if you're going to be successful, assume the worst, prepare for the worst. And it colors everything in terms of how we approach other people. And I think when we allow, and you use the word naked as well, and that really struck a chord with me because it speaks to vulnerability. And I think it's something that and I encourage our listeners to rethink what you've been taught about what it means to be powerful and to be in your strength. Because so often the opposite of what we've been taught is true. When you show up with true vulnerability, when you show up assuming the best intentions of the party that you're having a difficult discussion with or a contract negotiation, you are going to bring something different out in them, and you're going to open the space for both of you to be a little bit more vulnerable instead of guarded and get better outcomes. So, and sorry, I don't know if you'd wanted to jump in, Angel, as well and say something about that or about that.
No, I'm complete.
Okay, beautiful. And can I ask, how did you negotiate? And I think you addressed this a little bit in the last question, Rocio, but how, for both of you, how did you negotiate whether creative disagreements as co-authors or just how do you, if you can share sort of how you two negotiate disagreements that you have together and maybe any lessons for our listeners who are trying to collaborate more effectively while honoring different perspectives in today's climate, especially?
Yes, it's incredible your question because, at the end is not when we are putting here in the book, what we did was not for ourselves.
Yeah.
Was to really for the intention always was really clear, is to bring the person who's going to have the book in their hands the highest frequency that they can find.
Yeah.
That is love. So we all the time, even though when I was confused, he was really clear that we need to follow this. So we have a conversation, and he explained with a lot of patience, this is not about you or me. It's about the person who is the person who is writing, because they need to really understand how powerful they are, how loved they are,
Yeah.
all these make us really clear that is
Yeah.
how we can have a win-win situation, and the win-win situation is for them, not for us.
We may have cheated a little bit in that we worked together 25 years ago.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so there was a relationship already. In fact, we worked directly with each other. I was her boss when we first met.
Yeah.
But our first love was professional.
Yeah.
And we were presenting, and we were able to establish a dynamic that we were trying to repeat for 25 years, but we had not been able to. And so when this project arises, I think the next step was that we had done a lot of work on each of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we had addressed a lot of the pain and the wounds and the trauma that we had lived with all of our lives, and that may have been still with us. I had very little of it, but Rocio had a lot.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, sometimes the body doesn't recognize, makes no difference between a little and a lot. The pain is still there, and it still blocks you just the same.
Yeah.
And so because we had done a lot of work, Cindy, when we sat down, we were different people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we came into the table knowing that each one of us had a role to play there. And yes, maybe there were days when words flowed out of me much easier, and I was able to capture them on the computer much faster than she was.
Yeah.
But she was experiencing a lot of the things herself, and she was able to speak about them in a manner in which I was not in touch with in my own body and my own energy. And so that collaboration became really symbiotic.
Yeah.
And it allows us to capture it in its essence as it was happening, as it was being experienced, and as it was being put on paper. And that was really the magic. And yes, there were days, I'll give you an example. We had written, one of the women in the book, Jennifer, is a divorcee, and her story is around divorce and the trauma of divorce.
Yeah.
Well, she wasn't always a divorcee. She was actually a widow. We had written her story as a widow.
Yeah.
And one day Rocio gets up and she says, I had a dream yesterday. Sit down, because you may not like this. We had just finished the chapter like the day before. She is really a divorcee. That is the more common and occurring situation right now around us.
Yes.
That's the one we need to write about. And of course, I flipped, right? It's like, we just finished this. It's going to set us back a few days, if not
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the dialogue continued, and we were able to see that that was the right decision.
Yeah.
And so when you bring people to the table, make sure they're the right people. Make sure you trust their judgment. And if you trust their judgment, then be open to their judgment.
Yeah.
And that helped us tremendously.
Yeah. And it's funny, you're saying trust. It reminds me earlier, you were saying something, I can't remember which of you, but it reminded me how important when we're doing that self-exploration you talk about, to trust ourselves, right? Come to a place where we can learn to trust ourselves, trust our judgment, trust our intuitions, while still being open to the possibility that we're wrong about certain things. And it sounds like you two have that mastered. I love it. Now, it sounds like in the answer to the last question, you guys were giving a bit of what I would call sort of aha moments. I'm wondering if you experienced any other aha moments in the writing where the characters taught you something that maybe you hadn't anticipated.
Oh my goodness. So many. I think, in fact, and I'm going to use the word graduation, but by no means do I think that the journey is over. We're learning every day, right? And we're growing and expanding. But the book felt like a graduation for that stage of our lives. It's
nice.
almost as if it was the way in which everything was boiled
Yeah.
in this high pressure containment. And all of a sudden, these ideas that were shaping our life and changing our lives became part of us at a cellular level.
Yeah.
I remember a day, there is a powerful scene in which a woman, I'm not going to give too much, but well, I'm going to say it. She was raped. She was raped as a young model.
Yeah.
And she had never told anyone besides her mom. And her mom pretty much brushed it all off because they couldn't speak about it.
Yeah.
And I remember when we got back to chapter, we were working also with a third person, a ghostwriter who was helping us to polish things and so on. She sent us back the final version. And I'm there reading, and we would stand and read out loud, Rocio and I, after the chapters came back to us, and each time we had a turn, we would read them out loud to see how they felt.
So smart. Yeah.
And I kid you not, I expanded my hands and I read her when she got up in the middle of a circle, a woman's circle.
Yeah.
I still remember it. And she said out loud, I was raped and I have an eating disorder. And then she says, how's that for power? That she was able to say it out loud to a group of people.
Nice.
Oof. So the moments like that,
Yeah.
endless, endless.
And it's like writing the more you're speaking. I mean, I'm a big fan. I love to write. I write a lot. Even as a kid, I loved it. And you've talked about the power of journaling, Rocio, as well. And the aha moments and epiphanies that you had as you wrote this book. And for our listeners, again, I want to really encourage you, even if you don't think you're a writer, you don't have to be a Hemingway or an Atwood or whatever. Just write. Even it amazes me how, whether you're journaling or if you want to just play around even with fiction, sometimes, or memoir, as we write things, we have understandings and appreciations about our own psyche, about our own experience that we weren't aware of before. And just quickly, I remember writing something once, a piece about my mother, who sadly is no longer with us. But and when other people were listening, we were at a group and we each took turns reading stuff out. And it was clear to me, especially as you say, Angel, when you read it out loud, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was so much buried resentment here that I had no conscious awareness of. It was such a beautiful, cathartic experience. So now,
How beautiful.
yeah,
Let me tell you something about that to your listeners. Really, I was not a writer.
Yeah.
I didn't have that when I was growing up. I didn't have anything. Okay. I have drama. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I want everyone to really have these tools, because for somebody who never have the confidence to speak English.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine myself now speaking English, but I have a book in English.
Yeah.
So it is like you can go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And that's a limiting belief when people say, no, don't go out of your comfort zone. No. Let's learn how to thrive when we are in out of our comfort zone. Because when you are in your comfort zone, you don't grow.
Yeah.
So the better that you challenge yourself, little things. My mantra after I tried to take off my life was I'm gonna do something that scares me every day.
Yeah.
So writing was one of them.
Yeah.
And here we are having this conversation. So your listeners is if I do it, somebody who has no odds to making it,
Yeah.
really anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So
powerful. And if we stay in our comfort zone, it's like we built little prisons for ourselves, really. You know, I remember being on a beach once and seeing, what are they called? The little hermit crabs, the ones that almost
yes,
invisible. And I was mesmerized watching this thing. It would pop up from its little hole and then it would start just take like a couple little tiny steps and it would hear the roar of the ocean, which was still quite far away, and immediately pop back into its hole. And I watched this for I can't tell you how long. And that darn thing never moved more than 2 inches away from its hole, even though it had all the time and the space in the world. So
yes.
very powerful sentiment, Rocio. And I'm wondering, as we're having to sadly come to the end, we're going to have to, you've got too much to share here, and we'll have to sort of do a redo or a second chapter, if you will. But if your protagonist could sit down with our listeners here directly for the Art of Feminine Negotiation, what advice do you think your protagonists, your characters might give them? You can each pick one. How's that?
Was totally worth it to come to the Orchid for 1 week and drive myself in the profound beauty, the person who I am.
Lovely.
Mary is the founder of the Orchid. This is a woman that divorced, heartbroken, went around the world and discovered, as she was trying to get rid of her pain, that she was just so much greater than anything she had ever imagined.
Yeah.
And I could see her saying, in fact, she does in the book, but I could see her saying to our audience here today, you think that you are little. You think that your role is to do this one thing. And perhaps you have a job that you've been at for way too many years. Perhaps there is a task, a hobby, a skill that you've been dying to do. Connect with that energy.
Yeah.
Connect with yourself, that element inside of you that's going to ignite. It could be dance, it could be running, it could be swimming, it could be just gardening, right? It could be anything. The moment you connect with that one thing or those things that elevate you, you're going to tap into something that is waiting to come out. And it's you, that energy, it's like a flame and you're going to fuel it. And when you do, you become unstoppable because you're tapping into the essence of you. You're tapping into the universe trying to express itself through you. There's only one way in which it's trying to do it, and it's yours. And Angel's is different, and Cindy's and Rocio's is different, but yours, it's unique too. So tap into that and allow yourself to
There's a
emerge.
viral little clip right there. We're gonna have to take that little piece and put it out. And I love how especially when you started, you were so in character, Angel, right? Like you were speaking as Mary through that. That was lovely. Now, I know, and again, I can't believe how quickly our time has passed here. I normally like to end by asking, what is one of the greatest sort of mindset shifts that you've had in your life? And if you can each pick one.
Yes, I have one fantastic. Is the universe is gonna give you what you focus. If you focus in joy and abundance and creativity, you're gonna find it.
Yes.
If you focus in the other noise, you are wasting your time.
Yeah. That is a powerful mindset shift. My gosh. I remember when I had that epiphany, and thank you for the reminder, because these days I think we all need to remind ourselves of that every once in a while. So
let's help everyone to focus in what is worth it.
Yeah, I love that. And again, for our listeners, your reality is determined by your thoughts and the meaning that you attach to them. And the beauty, as Rocio says, is you get to choose that, right? You get to choose whether you're going to react in anger or react with laughter or find the joy or find the gift or gratitude, as Rocio had said earlier. So thank you. Beautiful. And how about you, Angel? What would be your
For
reminder?
me, this is often attributed to Henry Ford, and it says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right.
Oh, true.
And so we are limited by the depth of our imagination as to what we can accomplish. And we are powerful beyond belief. When I understood that, when I truly experienced that in myself,
Yeah.
wow, everything shifted, because then it's, yeah, we can do this. So, we're doing so many things now, and it all began with the book because of that shift.
Yeah. Well, two powerful mindset shifts there that in the entire conversation. I mean, there's just so much more here. And where can people learn about you? Where do you want me to send them?
You can visit us at www.theorchidbook.com. And there you can find pretty much everything, including where to purchase the book, events, book clubs, and all the other activities that we have coming and pending.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you, and we'll make sure for our listeners to put that in the show notes. So don't panic if you're out on the road or out and about and you weren't able to get that down. We will make sure to put that in the show notes so you can follow up yourself. If you are ready and looking to make the shift that you need to step into the best version of yourself and negotiate your life on your terms, then you're definitely going to want to check it out. So thank you both so much, Angel, Rocio. It's been just a lovely conversation. As I say, I love your energy and everything you've shared so graciously with us here today. Thank you.
Thank you as well,
Thank you so
Cindy.
much.
Our pleasure.
Cindy.
And for our listeners, there's so much value here, both in the answers on their face and when you peel back some of the layers. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. There's so much there. So please give the gift of sharing. Share this episode with other people. Re-listen to the episode yourself so you can get more of it. Go check out the book as well so that you can take an even deeper dive. And one thing I'll say on that, when you're going through a book like this where there's those exercises built into the book, don't just do it in your head. Do the exercises, right? Do the exercises yourself and you will enhance the experience multifold. And before we sign off, as always, if you are looking to uplevel your negotiation skills, I've got everything from online to group to my signature VIP or mastermind to help you better leverage your innate power so that you can get more of what you want and deserve. If that sounds interesting, check it out at artoffemininenegotiation.com. And for heaven's sakes, if you haven't got a copy of my book yet, make sure to do that. The Art of Feminine Negotiation, How to Get What You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And that's a wrap for this episode. So until next time, go forth and negotiate your best life on your terms so you can stop missing out and you can start getting more of what you want and deserve from the boardroom to the bedroom. Until next time, take care.